My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about my forthcoming lecture. It is about the birds and their age-long relationship with man. It will be seen in theaters like this across the country. In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Theirs is a noble history, and through it all, man has played a conspicuous part.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Generation Lost, the show about movies with Bryn and Jeremy. I said it right that time on purpose, not because
you did it great. You did a perfect job.
Yeah, And today we have a guest, which is Will. So, who are you again? Will Menaker. You're right. Menaker. It says here on my card. Hi, Will Menaker. How you doing, buddy?
Hello.
How do we say this? Is it Menaker?
You got it right. A little taste of my own medicine, as I am notoriously bad pronouncing people's names.
Me too. I never get it right.
That was the catalyst for us first meeting, was because you said Vegeta. Because you called Vegeta Vegeta, and everybody insisted you come on my show.
I read it in my head, and it's just like it sounds one way, but it never,
no, you're right. You're right. You that's how it's spelled.
English works.
Yeah,
it's spelled Vegeta, and I personally I forgive you, and I'm willing to go on record saying that all these years later.
Thank you. I will be held accountable by the anime community.
This is a very important accountability process that is, of course, taking place on stolen land. So we were talking before we started recording. Will, you're all juiced up. You're vaxxed. Bryn and I are almost fully vaxxed. We both got vaxxed on. Well, we both had the shot on the same day, so we both have our same 2-week waiting period now.
Well, it's 10 days according to the CDC now, which I assume if they're telling us that means
it's like 4.
It's 7, yeah. So basically, yeah.
Dude, hell yeah.
Yeah, so I actually went to the movies this week.
Did you? What did you see?
Yeah, I saw About Endlessness by Roy Andersson. He's a Swedish director. We've talked about him on the show before. He did You the Living.
Oh, hell yeah.
Will, have you seen any Roy Andersson movies?
I don't think I have.
Dude, I think you would like it. It's all very like, he doesn't move his camera. It's all locked off, single long take shots, but they all look like really strange paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very...
Roy Andersson. Okay, I'll put it in the queue.
I'd recommend You the Living. I really enjoyed it a lot, and I usually don't go in for this sort of thing.
Yeah. This is basically You the Living 2. Because Songs from the Second Floor is a very, like, narrative, but very surreal narrative. And You the Living is like a, series of vignettes about Sweden and how it was a, Nazi supporting country. And this one is very similar in that it's vignettes. Not a lot of they come back to characters sometimes, but not very often. But there's just some incredible stuff. There's a shot in this one of the shots in the movie, and I think probably like the pinnacle of the movie. Spoilers, but it's vignettes. Is like just the Red Army marching the Nazis through Siberia. It's like this infinite long trail of defeated soldiers while a couple Red Army guys just stand in the snow. It's absurd looking.
Wow.
But very worth watching. I thought it was pretty good. Not his best, but pretty good.
Well, the more important question here, Bryn, of course, is, well, first of all, what movie theater did you go to?
Film Forum.
And did you get any snacks? What'd you get?
No, you can't take your mask off. They still don't let you.
Oh, that's cruel.
Have you seen any movies yet? Will?
I went to the theater for the first time in over a year, just the other week. Mm-hmm. I went to the Nighthawk, the Prospect Park Nighthawk, and they do let you take your mask off once you sit down because they serve food there, so you have
yeah.
You can't just shove it into your mask. But Yeah, Catherine and I, we saw Nobody, starring Bob Odenkirk. Solid experience all around. In case you are not familiar with the movie, it is what if Bob Odenkirk was John Wick.
Right.
Dude, hell yes.
Movie.
I know exactly what you're talking about, yes.
It's nothing more or less than that. If that sounds appealing to you, then I would highly recommend this movie.
Does
Bob
he do a good
Odenkirk
job? Is he like
is John Wick? He is literally just no. He's John Wick. It's the plot of John Wick, except it's Bob Odenkirk instead of Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, but that's the big question mark, right? Is Bob Odenkirk? Because it's like those early, like Taken, the first time Taken. Like you see Liam Neeson, you're like, is Liam Neeson an action star? Like, is this going to work?
This possible?
How does Bob do? Is he all right?
Oh, he's great. I mean, I love Odenkirk, and like obviously like the sort of the humor or like entire sell of the movie is that he doesn't look like a guy who would be like the world's most deadly badass operator.
Right.
But he totally pulls it off. It was very fun, and you know if you're a fan of films. Christopher Lloyd makes an appearance in the movie, and it was wonderful to see him again in a movie. I always love to see Christopher Lloyd in a movie.
We gotta blow its brains out, Marty.
He plays Odenkirk's dad.
My question
so
about
I'm not giving
that,
too much away, but it was very fun.
My question about that movie is it in the same like Harry Potter universe as John Wick?
No,
like, do they have the coins and shit?
Like not. It is not like it's just a carbon copy of the John Wick universe, but not the exact John Wick universe. And like, but the bad guy is still like an evil Russian mafia guy.
That's a missed opportunity for me because I love that about John Wick, that it like did all this weird world building that it did
like
not have to.
The assassins just have a network of very nice hotels that they can chill and hang out with, like
they
all
have
over
their
the world.
own money,
and like that scene in John Wick 2 where like him and Common just like smash through the front door of this hotel.
Common is in these movies?
Oh yeah. Common
Jeremy,
is in John Wick
seen?
2.
I haven't seen any of the John Wicks yet, no.
So they smash through the door of the Assassin Hotel in Rome or whatever, like guns pointed at each other's heads, and like the concierge is just like, fellas, you know the rules. And then they just like, because you can't kill another assassin in the Assassin Hotel.
Right, or you'll get banned.
Hey, look, anything's outside this door, it's all business. But once you're in the hotel...
You can kill a regular person?
Yeah,
I don't know. No, you can't. I think you can't kill anybody within the walls. I think it also depends on the hotel, but the normal one they're at, the commissar or whatever, you can't kill anything. And as a matter of fact, I think someone kind of gets like a big fine for killing an animal.
Oh, interesting.
In like 2 or 3. But yeah, it's really weird because it's basically like action movie Harry Potter, and I really love it. But I'm disappointed it's not like he's also in the network. You just don't see the John Wick people because it's the same director, right?
No, I think it's the same producers, not the same director.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, it's just it was a fun, solid experience. It felt great to be back in a movie theater, and it was a good first movie back.
Nice. What else have you been watching recently?
The 2 most recent movies I've seen, like just this week, were the Eric Andre Bad Trip movie, which I thought was quite funny. It was
enjoyable. That movie.
It was very enjoyable. I mean, they like, you know, it's like a simple concept of like this sort of hidden camera prank movie, but built around like a very threadbare plot with like some scripted dialogue. But, like, you know, more than anything, it just really excels, and, like, the funniest parts of the movie are, like, the genuine reactions from, like, normal, everyday people. There are some really hilarious, like people in the moment reacting to, like, the insane shit that Eric Andre has contrived around them that were genuine and quite funny.
Is it, up to the level of, like, the first Borat, or is it kind of, like...
Oh, it goes beyond that level. Like, I mean, really? It is like, it's very much on that tip. But like, he does some like insane and gross shit for sure.
I think when he gets raped by a gorilla, it's at
spoiler alert, Brandon.
There's a certain thing where people are losing their mind, but like they don't know how to react in this because they're like, this can't be real. Like people are like, what am I seeing? Can this be happening? It's very funny. I think
Isaac, when I reviewed Bad Trip on Letterboxd, like as a joke, I just wrote spoilers at like the top of my review, and then I said my favorite part was when the gorilla fucked his mouth, and then like And then like the commenters are like, "There's a spoiler tag. Put it on. There's a tag for this." And I was like, "It's a joke. Like I'm not giving away anything about the plot of this movie. It's just a gorilla fucks his mouth and ass in this movie."
I refuse to use the fucking Darth Vader spoiler tag. If you're going to read the review, you're going to find out stuff about the movie.
Spoiler
You're rolling
tag?
the dice.
I didn't even know.
And the other movie I saw this week was the new HBO Max Mortal Kombat movie.
Hell yes, dude.
I fucking hated it. I thought it was so goddamn bad. It was like infuriatingly awful on so many fucking levels because like I wasn't even aware that like the main character was just a guy they invented for this movie.
Some dude.
Never been in the video games, not featured ever. And I was like, Cole Young? I was like, I guess like I haven't played Mortal Kombat
Googling
since I was
the whole time I'm watching.
Just like trying to spell his name backwards. Like what? E-Lock? Is that somebody?
Yeah. It sucked so bad, and man, yeah, like I know it made me want to rewatch and appreciate the Paul W.S. Anderson Mortal Kombat movie where Christopher Lambert plays Raiden.
Absolutely incredible movie.
Like that was fun and cool. And like worst of all, at no point in the new Mortal Kombat movie does someone yell "Mortal Kombat" over like just like slamming techno music.
They have the song. They have access to the song, and they don't even touch it until the fucking closing credits.
Travesty. And worst of all is like the first 20 minutes of the movie trick you into thinking that this is going to be cool because it's like in Japan in the 17th century, and it's like the Sub-Zero and Scorpion, like it's like the origin of their vendetta, and it was like cool and violent, and I was like, it's got that guy Joe what's his name? Joe Talsim from The Raid and Warrior, and he kicks ass. I mean, I love that he's getting paid, but it was like the first 20 minutes, you're like, okay, cool, all right, this is fun. It's cool and violent. It's like a cool
good choreography and
exactly. And then like it just, I've never seen a movie do a heel turn that fast. It's just absolute dog shit.
It's funny because like the trailer looks cool. Like it's really well shot. Like it's very vibrant color. It doesn't look like the dumb washed out Avengers shit.
It is colorful. I'll give it that. I mean, it's like
most of the actual fighting in this movie takes place in like the same sandbox. It's like the worst set I've ever seen. It looks like such ass. Oh god.
And then like all of the fun fatalities and stuff are just crammed all the way at the end.
There are no fun fatalities. There's one cool gory death in the movie.
Yeah, where
and,
he
no
saws
one got
the
their
lady
spinal
in half.
cord ripped out. Like it wasn't even that violent. It's just so disaster.
It's so disappointing.
Thumbs down
How
from
could
me.
you? I think the big problem with it is that it wasn't 10 hours long.
Yeah, that's a big problem for me. Yeah, you need to introduce all these people.
The Mortal Kombat universe, there's a lot of lore there that I think that they should have explored more fully.
Left on the cutting room floor, and I think that was a big problem. But I just think it's such a shame that you would have access to everything. Like you've got this property that the only thing people like about it is that it's dumb and it's insanely violent, and then you make a rated R movie and you don't do that. Like you don't make it violent. It's rated R, right?
Yeah, it's rated R.
So,
it's like it's pretty violent, but I was expecting a way higher level of like gruesome brutality.
That's what I'm saying. It has to be like a fucking Stuart Gordon movie or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It needs to be like people getting their jaws ripped off and stuff.
It's got to at least be like Saw.
It legitimately made me long for the PG-13 Paul W.S. Anderson Mortal Kombat film.
Yeah.
It does have beautiful
I'd really
sets.
recommend revisiting it. We did it for the show maybe like a year ago at this point, but it was like the set design on it is such a like just hidden gem of the whole thing. Like everything looks incredible in that movie.
And Christopher Lambert is so funny.
He's the best. He's having so much fun.
Fucking funny. It's just
he's having such a good time in that movie.
Well, what did you watch this week, Jeremy?
Thanks for asking, Bryn.
Welcome.
So since Nico was born, I've been spending a lot of time listening to the radio. There's a lot of like, I don't want so I don't want Nico to see a lot of screens yet. So like I listen to the radio a lot, right? And so it got me thinking about an old movie, an old favorite of mine, the Howard Stern story, Private Parts.
Oh my God! Yes.
So I rewatched Private Parts for the first time since I was a teenager.
The podcaster's holy grail.
Yeah, my God, that was like one of my favorite. I remember seeing that movie in the theater with my friends and like hurting from laughing so hard.
My fucking dad brought me to see it.
Did you find that it held up, like, watching it again?
Absolutely, yes. 100%
I mean, I found that it was, like,
yes.
it was pretty good. Like, it wasn't as funny as I remembered, but save for every scene with Paul Giamatti is fucking good. And he is... The scene in the credit sequence at the end where they're interviewing him on the street and he's, like, a manager of a supermarket now kills me. It fucking
so
kills
fucking
me.
Good. Yeah, Paul Giamatti is an absolute star in this. And like I've even heard like there's like a story that goes around about how like it's his first big break and he's really nervous to be with Howard Stern because Howard Stern is such a big name at that point. And like Stern goes up to him, he's like, "You're gonna be a fucking star, kid." And it's Paul Giamatti.
Well, he is. He is a star now.
He is a star, absolutely, yes.
He's a damn sex symbol now.
Bryn, did you ever see Private Parts?
No, I've never seen it.
I would recommend it. It's,
I'm sure
it's
like
very
it.
90s and
it's so 90s.
I love 90s things.
But you know what it is? It's something that comes up a lot on the show, which is like good biopics, and it's one of the rare ones that actually works because he doesn't take himself too seriously. It kind of has some of that walk hard sort of energy to it, where it is at times like making fun of the tropes of the biopic, like. He, when he goes to college, he jumps from being a kid actor to being himself. So it's like himself, like as like this gigantic Big Bird man, just like walking around with all these actual college kids.
It's so weird that he plays himself in this movie.
He does a great job. Everybody plays themselves, basically. I think his wife is the only one who's an actor.
But it's like at the height of his fame, too. So there's not even like, is there even like a... oh no, I'm doing too much drugs and I have to like re-find myself moment in the movie?
Nope.
It's just like a now I'm awesome.
It's just like,
Fuck
I mean, there's some tension with his wife about like, how horny he is for porn stars on his radio show. But
I was gonna say his version of that is like he makes a joke about them having a miscarriage and then she's like, "You went too far," and he's like, "I'm sorry."
And that's it. That's it. It's resolved. It's totally resolved. But like, the real like plot of the movie is his war with NBC Radio.
Yes, absolutely. That's the meat of it.
And like the NBC execs, like the man who wants to have, says, "Oh, you can't have hot lesbians on your show."
It's not allowed.
He's like hell I can.
And he's just like, "We'll see about that."
It is very funny how much of it is devoted to that particular... He's got a long career with like a lot of different stuff in it, but so much of it is taken up by like, yo, I hate NBC, fuck these assholes. Because I think he had just finished, he'd just gotten fired at that point and was like just done with that whole saga of his life and had moved on to... He was on K-Rock at this point. But yeah, absolutely gem of a movie.
It's a classic slobs versus snobs narrative.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Like, what is that? Revenge of the Nerds?
Caddyshack.
Caddyshack,
that kind of thing. Back to School.
And do they win at the end, I guess? But
of course. The slobs must always triumph.
We always do.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Very much holds up for me. Paul Giamatti's incredible. But what was interesting, too, that I didn't realize is a woman director.
Oh, right. It's
Betty Thomas.
Betty Thomas.
Betty Thomas of the Brady Bunch movie and Dr. Dolittle and Alvin and the Chipmunks of the Squeakquel.
Oh shit! Betty Thomas did the Squeakquel.
Damn, that's awesome, dude. The Brady Bunch movie. When I was a kid, that was the funniest thing.
Was it really?
I don't know if it holds up because I haven't seen it since I was pre-high school, but the first one and the second one I loved so much. I probably watched them like 5 or 6 times each.
Yeah, I don't know that I ever saw it. It's not the original. It can't be the original.
No.
Right?
It is a comedy movie where it's the Brady Bunch, but if they were in modern day.
Got it. But so they are themselves still like...
Yeah, they still act like it's like the 60s or 70s or whatever.
Right.
But everyone around them is like a 90s person.
They're just very wholesome, and they don't for some reason, it's never explained. There's no more like moving parts to the plot than they're just a wholesome family that is somehow in the 90s.
Right.
And, like, there's more crime, I guess, and more free sex and drugs in the 90s. So they're like, oh, wow, that's crazy.
Wow.
And then in the sequel, they go to Hawaii.
I've always thought that would be a good...
they get laid.
That's like a good premise for like pretty much any adaptation of an old sitcom, right? Like,
just do it now.
Do it now, but they are themselves still. Like, I always thought that would be a great thing to do with the Flintstones. If like the Flintstones move to your block and it's like a regular suburban neighborhood, and then like the actual old Flintstones house is just in the middle of it.
It's all rocks, and they have to
and they still have all the dinosaur appliances and stuff, and like, but their neighbors are all regular people with like regular.
They're still using a pelican as a toilet.
Exactly.
Shitting in a bird's mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll get there later when we get to the movie we watched this week.
Bryn, what did you watch this week aside from the?
I watched a couple things, but the only thing that's coming to mind right now was a 2.5 hour long documentary about Billie Eilish.
Okay.
Which came out this week, which is fascinating. It's
Really?
one of the weirdest, like, music documentaries I've ever seen, because it begins and they haven't recorded their like album yet. So they're like, the entire documentary is like cell phone footage, and like her brother had the wherewithal to like have a GoPro in their like room where they were recording. So it's just a 15-year-old girl and her like 20-year-old brother like sitting on a bed and writing and like arguing and just like having fun and being kids. And then as the movie goes on, like more and more people, they like talk to Interscope, and Interscope is interested in this album they're writing, and then like people start showing up to their bedroom, and like Billie is just this child, like this very like no performance training, no like media training, just this very raw personality who's like the A&R guys from Interscope come to her house and they're like, okay, show us a song, and they sing a song, and they're like, yeah, that's kind of a cheesy beat, and she's like, well, I like it. And they're just like, it's very strange. And then as the thing goes on, they get like better and better cameras, and because like they're like, oh, let's keep documenting this.
This might become a real movie at some point, so let's like get something that actually looks okay.
Right, and then so you have her like meeting her heroes, which is like Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande, and she's just like constantly weeping because she's meeting like celebrities. She meets Orlando Bloom, but like doesn't realize it's him because she's like, he's just normal looking.
Yeah, he doesn't have long blonde hair and a bow and arrow.
Yeah, he's not Legolas or whatever, and then she like realizes that, and so it's this very strange and intimate portrait of like a pretty normal person becoming insanely famous, and then being really opinionated about her art. And like they do like one music video, and she's like, he's like, I'm directing the next one. I can't handle like other people directing, so she just like starts directing her own videos. It's really weird, but I wasn't really expecting it to be so, I guess unfiltered, I guess is the Rolling Stone word. It just seems like there's a lot of stuff in it that she might be embarrassed about. But it's in the movie, and I don't know. I've never really seen one like that.
It kind of reminds me of something I do want to watch for this at some point. What's Up, Fat Lip, which is the little short documentary that Spike Jonze made about Fat Lip from The Far Side.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like them as they're filming the music video for the song What's Up, Fat Lip. And it's just all them chilling on set, like as they're getting ready to shoot different stuff. And like, did you ever see the video for that? It's all like kind of like guerrilla footage.
I was obsessed with that song and video when it came out.
Dude, so did you ever see the little documentary?
No, I never did, but like I love that song because it was like in an era of rap music where like everything was very like flashy and like cool or whatever, and like the whole point of that song is like what a fucking loser he is.
Yeah.
He's just like
literally
a
talking
nerd
about being
that no
a
one
loser.
likes, and like in the sort of like P. Diddy era of like wearing shiny suits and like having had champagne or whatever.
Dude, you'll love the documentary then, because it's all like him talking about what a loser he is at that point in his life, and he's
like girls don't like me.
Yeah, it's all him
friends,
just chilling with Spike and like being like, yeah, man, like it's not far. Like I'm not riding the bus yet, but it's not far. Like I might be riding the bus pretty soon. And like there's a great scene where like, so there's the shot in the video where like the two kids like jump him for his bike and they ride off with it. Those two kids in real life are like, they're like, yeah, we'll be in your video. Cool, man. That's awesome. And then they're like, so yeah, do you know like Puff Daddy? He's like, yeah, we've like met a couple times. And they're like, yo, do you think you could get us Puff Daddy's signature? And he's like, yeah, man, I could get you Puff Daddy's signature.
It is really weird, this movie, because there's a lot of stuff about her dealing with like I think what's interesting about it as a movie is that it kind of is a movie about alienation. Like as she like she has this like family and like this really tight knit like home life. She's homeschooled. Right. They're both homeschooled their whole life, like me, and as it kind of goes, she's just sort of like away from her friends constantly, but more and more people like want to like freak out and cry whenever they see her, so she starts putting all this pressure on herself to like perform, and like anytime anything goes wrong she just like breaks down crying because she's 16 years old or whatever.
Right.
And so it becomes this weird thing where all she has is like her phone, and she's just like constantly trying to get her boyfriend to pay attention to her, who's right. like she was dating before she was famous at all, and he just doesn't care anymore or something. And then and then like she breaks up with him because he's like never calls her back. So she just becomes like more and more lonely.
She always seems like very like the few appearances I'm not super familiar with like her in general, but like the few appearances I've seen of her talking, like she seems very like aloof and like disconnected a lot of the time, and I wonder if that's like part of what happens over the course of the movie.
God, maybe. She's very. She doesn't seem to have many other. She just has the one personality. She's just like, if she's sad, it's. I guess the thing about it is like I think a lot of celebrities become celebrities and then stay that way, and like Billie Eilish is in this moment where she's like not a celebrity in her mind yet. Like she's she won like every Grammy and she's one of the biggest superstars in the world, but is a kid and doesn't really have a sense of herself or like her life, and it's weird and voyeuristic and odd to watch a 2.5 hour movie about like this kid becoming this idol to people.
Yeah,
it's kind of strange.
I'm sure it'll end well.
They should call her Billy Idol.
Yeah, because she wants more with a rebel yell.
And she hates when you leave your car on.
Yeah, and one day she'll have a nice white wedding.
You ever see the ads? It was like one of de Blasio's like big things last year was like getting Billy Idol to do ads that you shouldn't idle your car.
What?
It is like a classic de Blasio bullshit idea.
That's another,
like right when you're going to the Midtown Tunnel
from the debungler.
Right when you're going into the Midtown Tunnel, there's a huge picture of Billy Idol.
And he's just like, listen, mate, if you get out of your car, make sure to turn it off.
He's so old.
Yeah.
He looks so fucking old.
He looks
old.
Says
Billy doesn't idle, and you're supposed to be like, oh yeah.
He looks old in The Wedding Singer, which was like
exactly.
25 years ago.
25 years, yeah.
But yeah, he looked really old in those commercials, which I now remember. Anyway, let's get into the movie we watched this week, which was the Angry Birds movie. Hitchcock month is returning for one more vengeance. We did Hitchcock month, and now we took a break, and now we're doing one final Hitchcock.
One more Hitchcock.
Right, and as we all know, he directed the 2016 family comedy, The Angry Birds movie, in which they drink piss. No, we're watching The Birds. Starring Tippi Hedren. And this movie is from 1963, and it's insane.
It's wild. It's so much better than any of the other ones that we watched.
So I had never seen this movie.
Wow.
And Jeremy, you had also never seen this movie?
No, I had seen it, yeah.
Oh, okay. You'd seen it before. This is the one I'd never seen, or of the ones Jeremy picked. And Will, you'd definitely seen this movie, right?
This is legitimately my favorite Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Okay. It's an interesting choice because I feel like it gets overlooked in the best one conversation.
It is, because I love it so much because it is so strangely so different than anything else he ever did, but also so similar in that like it is this like just bizarre like apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
But also like all of his other movies, I think like, and probably even more pronounced than his other movies, like it is a vehicle for the expression of his deeply peevish and sadistic sexuality.
I was gonna say the big commonality between the other movies is that it is very much about how women suck.
It's about how women will bring about the end of the world. Basically, the plot of this movie is that like the introduction of a sort of vivacious, sexually available young woman to this small community, or the world in general, the world at large. We don't even really know what's going on outside of Bodega Bay. But yes, like Tippi Hedren's character, by wanting to fuck this guy, pretty much inaugurates the end of the world. Yeah. And what I love about the movie is like, this is like, I almost view this movie as like a proto Night of the Living Dead. Like, and I love horror movies like that, about like people trapped in like a house or like a small town that have this like, keyhole glimpse or perspective on like the end of the world. And this is, like, as far as apocalypse movies go, absolutely the funniest way the world could end.
Yeah, it's up there
just
at
start
least.
Killing. Okay, well, let's just do a quick recap of the movie because it's not that complicated.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's like a Mayan calendar ending. It's like you'd always hear the different worlds that ended in the Mayan calendar, and one of them was like eaten by jaguars.
So the movie begins with Tippi Hedren coming into a pet store to buy lovebirds.
She wants to buy a mynah bird.
Mynah bird, which whatever that is. And then a man comes in and asks her if he can buy lovebirds, thinking that she works there. Over the course of this conversation, you realize that he doesn't think she actually works there. He knows she doesn't, and he's fucking with her because
he's doing strong alpha PUA.
Yeah.
He really is. He believes that he heard about a case that involved her. She was on trial for doing a YouTube prank that went wrong and broke a window, and he thinks she should have been in jail for 3 years. So as a lawyer, he took it upon himself to fuck with her because he thinks she got off easy. Yeah,
which, by the way, incredible twist of brain going on here, where like he is absolutely the one getting pranked in this scene, but he like ends up being like, haha, I fucking pranked you dumb bitch. I don't fucking care about lovebirds. And she's like, I was making up all this stuff about lovebirds. Clearly, I'm the one who was having fun here.
Yeah, it's really odd, and I don't understand. I feel like this is never really addressed, and I was hoping one of you guys would be able to help me understand. Why is she a prankster?
Oh, she's like a socialite. She seems like she's like a
party
rich
girl.
Yeah,
she's a rich party girl. Like her dad owns like a chain of newspapers, and she's got a cool car and like wears nice clothes, and she's just fun, single, ready to mingle, and she's out to have fun and do like you said, YouTube pranks, social experiment, breaking a window.
Yeah,
but yeah, like she's in the gossip
in
columns.
Fountain in Rome.
Yeah, she's in the gossip columns. She's this like hot it girl.
Yeah, which seemingly everybody in the world reads, because even like the dude's mother later on is like, she was naked in that fucking fountain in Rome. This bitch.
So she's basically Paris Hilton.
Yes,
very much
1963,
something for the equivalent of.
Okay, I kind of put that together, but I didn't understand why she would be doing pranks. But I guess it's just because there's nothing better to do in 1960.
No, she's doing pranks because she's an unattached woman, and like that is what this movie is terrified of, and like that is the agent of the end of the world. Is that she's this like hot, sexually available woman, but she's not tied down by like family, marriage, or a man.
Right.
Yeah, and worse yet, she has a distinct personality that has like traits. And
yeah, no, like
terrifying.
Which is bad. You don't want that.
Life has not been wrung out of her like a dish rag.
Yeah, and she's a chaos dragon. She is
female chaos. She is a dragon.
Yeah. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense. I get where we're going. So, for whatever, someone has to take me to Bodega Bay. How do we get there?
Well, okay, so she decides that like because this sort of swaggy lawyer does alpha PUA to her and he negs her and says, "Hey, I think you should have gone to jail for 3 years." But like she's obviously into him and she's like, "Oh, this man, whatever." Yeah. But so it's like to sort of get back at him, but also to continue their flirtation, she takes it upon herself to get the lovebirds that he was trying to get for his sister and surprise him by like leaving him a note outside his apartment. And then, like, she gets up there, and then there's, like, a guy who's just like, "Oh, if you're looking for Mitch, like, he went to Bodega Bay for the weekend." And she's like, "Oh, okay."
He goes every weekend. I know a lot about him.
So she decides to take her cool convertible, drive up the California coast to the town that invented bodegas.
Yes.
That's right. Bodega Bay. And she, so like a psycho, drives hours away, apparently, and then goes to this small town and stops at the nice corner store. It's basically like I don't know, Northern California Mayberry.
It's shockingly not a bodega.
Right.
It's a general store.
It's a general store.
You cannot get a chopped cheese there. And, this was the 60s.
The guy does not make any jokes about the change amount. He doesn't say like that'll be $100, nothing like that.
No fun energy from this guy. He's just like a big doofus who's like, "Oh, you want to know where this guy who you barely know anything about lives? Over there." See that house
I know a lot about him.
What I think is cool, like the interesting thing to note here is that like upon her arrival to Bodega Bay and like the guy at the general store, the guy she rents the boat from, it is immediately apparent that like she breezes in from San Francisco and she's got this like gorgeous fur coat and she's just like the height of fashion and sort of cosmopolitan glamour and sexiness. Everyone in this town immediately is like both repulsed and like totally like obsessed with her. Like they're terrified of her, but also like really like sprung as well.
Oh, for sure.
Like they're very wary of her. Like they don't know what to make. Like they're very like afraid of her. And I also really like the guy who knows everything about Mitch because it's a small town. He's like, "Oh, well, if you want to talk about Mitch, just go up the block and talk to his ex."
Hot woman rolled into town. Why don't you go talk to his ex? I'm sure that'll help him out.
So she does, and she goes talks to Annie Hathaway, who
is now a school teacher because she moved to the town to be with Mitch. Yeah. And then he broke up with her because of his insane mom, which we'll get into. And then she just, I'm going to stick around this town and be a school teacher in like a town of 300 people that like is only just reminds me of this guy that like, dumped me.
I just fell in love with this disgusting bae.
Shocking behavior, but probably my favorite character in the movie. Mm-hmm. She just seems really chill and like just a lady who likes to hang out. She's a good hang. Yeah, seems like a real person who I'd hang out with.
Yeah, she like pours wine for her when she gets there. Very nice. Yeah.
Like hot girl shit.
Very hot girl shit. So Anne Hathaway, that's her name, right? It's Anne Hathaway.
Anne Hayworth.
Hayworth. Excuse me. That's Rita Hayworth. Is okay. Yeah. Anne Hayworth. So Anne Hayworth is his ex-girlfriend, and she's like, "Oh, you want to know some stuff?" And also doesn't seem to be like, no one thinks she could be there for anything but totally normal reasons. Probably because he's a young bachelor on the island, and she's a very hot lady. So she's like, "Yeah, he lives over there. His sister's name is Kathy." So the best thing you could do, I guess, if you want it to be a surprise. Because she's like, "I don't want to just go in the front door. I don't want to drive around and go in the front door. I want to sneak in and surprise them."
She's asking really suspicious questions about this guy that nobody is like. She's like, "Yeah." So the sister, like, is she around?
Under the doormat?
Is she? Yeah. What kind of schedule do they keep? Would they be there right
rock?
now?
Yeah. So she's like, "Well, if you want to sneak in, you can probably just take a boat across the bay, and just sneak in through the back." And so she does that. She gets on what looks like a rowboat, but has a little motor on it. And
Tiny
then
little motor.
Zooms over there with the lovebirds and then sneaks into their house, puts them on the table, doesn't to actually
it's
rips
another
up
classic,
the note.
It's another classic Melanie Phillips prank.
Yeah. Yeah. What's up, guys? Melanie Phillips here.
Yeah,
We're
big
doing a
soy
lovebird
face on the thumbnail being like, left birds in living room.
And so she leaves the birds in the living room and then leaves. And then
The
she's
boat
hiding.
rental guy sucked me off.
And then as she's leaving, just like she drives like maybe 50 feet out and then stays there and then watches Mitch go into the house and find him, and she's like, haha, I got him, got his ass. And then he immediately sees her and is like, hey, what's that boat floating in the river? And then drives all the way around to where she came from and catches her. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing? But before he can catch her, a seagull attacks her and fucking rips her head open, and she's bleeding. Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, are you okay?
The use of blood in this movie, especially Tippi Hedren's blood, is of course must be understood as the cinematic stand-in, the visual metaphor for the sex act.
Of course.
like that is kind of like, what I have my own theories on what the birds in this movie represent. Well, we can get into that, but it's very important that the first bird attack is when she's chugging across the bay, just thinking how horny she is for this guy Mitch, because they've culminated now. They're classic romantic flirtation. It's teasing the other party and doing pranks to them. I mean, if you're this is classic romance and flirtation.
Normal dating.
Normal dating stuff where you just give people gifts they don't want.
You bring people birds. You bring them responsibilities. You leave them things they need to feed and take care of and take to the vet.
Yes. Terrible gift. Never get me a bird. I will throw them away.
I will kill the bird.
I will immediately kill it and eat it, probably. So he has to take care of her. And then I guess they go back to the house at this point.
Yeah, doesn't she fucks off for a second? She's like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to the place that I'm staying at, and I'll see you later for dinner, maybe.
Yeah,
and then
but
she
the
goes
mom
back
is
to
there,
Anne Hayworth's house and is like, hey, can I stay with you for a bit?
Yeah, so she goes over to Mitch's house for dinner, and then here's another. We'll get into Lydia, the mother, in a second, but the engine of the Lovebirds is that he wants to get a gift for his sister, Kathy, played by Nancy Cartwright, and I think this is her first role as a child actor, but you may remember her from such films as Alien and the 70s remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Wait, is she Lambert in Alien?
Yep.
Oh my god. She's amazing in this movie.
Yeah, no, and she's great. And you can see her especially towards the end, she as an actor gets panic. She captures crying and being afraid really well.
Especially when
you see a lot of that in Alien.
Especially when she has to throw up at near the end of the movie. She looks like she's about to die.
Okay, but here's another big question about this movie. Why is Mitch's younger sister 20 years younger than him?
Yeah, and his mother is pretty old dynamic. And it's hard to figure out what the math is there.
Yeah. I thought they were playing a little trick on you at first, because I thought he was lying about his sister. And, there's a moment where she's like, oh, Mrs. his last name, and it's they are implying that he's married or something. And then you show up and it's oh no, he lives with his mom, who's basically looks 10 years older than Tippi Hedren with gray hair. And then it's oh, but that's not his wife. And he calls her dear, and
he calls her darling. He calls his mother darling. And I said, she doesn't it's very odd because she has gray hair, but she has these her lips are in this striking red. She's wearing this very powerful red lipstick color, and she has these absolutely piercing blue eyes. And this mother character, Lydia, is an even more frightening movie mother than Norman Bates's mom in the mothers of the Hitchcock universe. And it like she has these piercing blue eyes, and then it's just like, you know, hello mother, this is Melanie Phillips or whatever, and you can just see her like the Terminator vision. She's just like slut, spotted, destroy.
Yeah, and then so they eventually get to dinner, and they have dinner. God, I usually take notes on this stuff, and I did not. And I watched it today, and I can't remember what the fuck happens in order. So I'm sorry about that. But they do have.
Oh yeah, the hens are refusing to eat at this point.
Yeah, so like there are these intimations that, like, you know, I mean, like the first, like, you know, indication you get is like the gull who dive bombs Tippi Hedren, like when she's crossing the bay, and then, like, you know, it's sort of a throwaway line at dinner. The mom is calling the guy who sold her chicken feed because she's like, oh, my chickens aren't eating. There's something up with the feed. So you're like, this, like, you know, like little indications that something is not right. And that, like, something was not right with these birds. And, you know, she talks to Mitch about, like, she's read the gossip pages. This girl jumped naked into a fountain in Rome. And she says to Mitch, I suppose I'm just naturally curious about a girl like that.
Yeah.
And, like, there's she's this very cold woman. And, like, and obviously, like, she is deeply threatened because, like, you know, her husband had died not too long ago. And, like I said, she has this weird kind of semi-romantic relationship with her adult son.
Yeah.
And, like, it is... Tippi Hedren's character is like this threat to her and the threat to the town of Bodega Bay itself, and it's just like her arrival coincides with the bird apocalypse beginning to happen, and it's just like it's her threat of like displacing her role as like mother/lover to her adult son.
Right, and she talks to Annie about this and the night after they have dinner, and Annie is sort of just like, yeah, she didn't like me because I would have taken him away from her. And, like, Tippy's sort of trying to say, like, you know, so she's just a jealous mother and very protective. And she's like, not exactly. It's not just, like, she doesn't want to leave, like, Mitch. It's like she doesn't want to, she's afraid of being alone at all. I can't remember exactly, like, the distinction she's trying to make there, but it's like,
it's pretty clear what she's getting at, though, is like it's a little more than like a mom role here. Like it's hard to really like put words to it without saying like that they're fucking, but like, you know, like it's definitely a little more than what you'd expect, because like she has a daughter. It's not like she's gonna be alone in the house. It's pretty clear that it's like but alone in a different way.
It's that Mitch is fulfilling like a husband role as well as a son role for her.
Exactly.
And
which is
and
weird.
Like, the thing is, like, as the courtship between Mitch and Melanie progresses, and she, sticks around for a little bit longer, she goes to Kathy's birthday party the next day, which is when the first major bird attack happens. But, like, the longer their courtship is allowed to continue and, like, begins to, you know, sort of, percolate or simmer,
starts to get hot.
Yeah, the worse the bird attacks get. And like I sort of read this movie is that, like, you know, like what are the birds? Like, what is causing the birds to do the bird apocalypse? And I think that, like, the birds are a like psychic manifestation of Lydia's fear and hatred of other women. And the fear of like the threat in which like of like what female sexuality represents to her position as like a mother with like a weird, you know, psychosexual fixation on her own son. And like the birds at every at every way like intercede to break up and apart Mitch and Melanie, and to specifically punish Melanie for existing and being like sexy and like her son is into and wants to fuck, basically.
Right. Yeah. So they're at the party, and then the birds attack, and this is the first time you start to see like the special effects in the movie, and the special effects
which are great. I really love the way they
insane.
Look.
Yeah.
There's so much beautiful matte painting in this movie, and then like the proto green screen of like layering over birds over like another. I don't quite know how they it's a film technique where like you shoot like multiple film exposures over each other and then sort of meld them together. It's
like it wasn't blue screen, which existed, I believe, but like it's some sort of other thing where you just expose the birds and then lay that over the different exposure.
And then you run that through a machine that films the multiple exposures onto a single,
right.
like strip of film.
So it looks that I think looks the worst, but there's also apparently robot birds, like $200,000 worth of robot birds in this movie. And I don't know which ones they were, but they look amazing.
Yeah, whatever they are, they're great.
Because some of those birds are like on the kids. I think those are the robot birds.
We got to talk about this because like this movie does contain probably one of my absolute favorite, like, one perfect shot, like, images from any movie ever. And it's at the birthday party scene when all the birds are attacking the kids and they're all screaming and running inside. And then there's just this one shot of this little girl lying face down on the ground with a bird just pecking at her. And I'm sorry, it is so funny to me. Like, all the scenes in this movie of children being savaged by birds are so fucking funny to me. I mean, like,
well, it informs the later scenes too, because like once you've seen the one bird pecking, and then like there's the later scene where you're supposed to be really intimidated by all the birds on the jungle gym, and you're just like, oh yeah, hell yeah, dude, get the kids. Well, if it's gonna be more of that.
So it's really interesting because having never seen this movie. Okay, also we should mention this movie has no music. At all. There's no score whatsoever. But
it has excellent sound design.
Yeah, which is all done with like synthesizers, which is very weird for the time because it's the 60s.
I think Bernard Herrmann did not the score, but he did the sound design. The famous movie composer.
Right, and the birds sound like a cat sped up or something. Like it's like this very eerie and weird.
It's very menacing, yeah.
It's an electrical sound, but it sounds like a gross bug cat or something. And but the first time you see at the birthday party, you see the birds and they attack. It wasn't scary at all. It's like it almost felt, and I was like, oh, did this movie not age very well? But then the next thing that happens is the Lydia mother goes to see her friend, and you go into his room and his eyes are eaten out.
That's
such a good example of the way the movie uses an absence of sound to create these scares that like a jump cut that would like normally be heightened or sort of cheating by like hitting you with this like shrieking sound as the cut happens.
Yes.
But when like Lydia goes to see the chicken feed guy to like check in on him, like the progression of her like entering the house, realizing that something is amiss, going down the hallway into the bedroom, and then in each cut revealing another image of like shocking bird horror, and then cutting closer and closer to seeing this man on the floor with his eyes pecked out, like black holes and just blood all over his face, and it's totally silent, and you just see a reaction then coming out of the house, and it's so effective, like the setup of that scare, which I imagine for 1963 was like about as gory as a movie could possibly imagine like being.
Yeah, because this is late stage Hitchcock. This is like one of his last 5 films, I think. And most people don't really remember Frenzy, I think.
Frenzy is extremely disturbing and violent. It was like his last movie he ever made, and like for everyone who's like, oh, Hitchcock got all these scares and he didn't show you blood or like murders on screen. It's like, watch Frenzy, because it is really explicit and terrifying and like really graphic.
So this is like where he's going. Like he goes real hard, and that scene was like, oh, okay, maybe it did age well, because like one of the things about that shot is like she turns the corner and then it cuts to just like this tableau of like dead birds around him, and you see like sort of his whole body, and then before you really take in what you're looking at, because it's scary already because he's got black holes instead of eyes, and then right like as soon as you process that, it cuts like really close into his fucking face, and so you just see these eyes eaten out, and then right back to her. And so, but again, no sting, no nothing to like date it. It's just like, look, it's rotten.com, really close, and then you're out. Really fucked up, and that's very, very affecting. So now she's sort of starting to feel like, okay, this is happening. There's birds eating everybody, and then we get the nice fun scene the Twilight Zone episode where they're in the diner.
I love this part of the movie. I love this part of the movie because it introduces my favorite character in the movie, which is the ornithologist. No, like
she's great.
It happens to be some old lady who's like knows everything about birds and is like a huge asshole about it. She's just like,
and you're expecting like
there's definitely a difference between blackbirds and crows. They are of the different genus, something like she's given all the like the Latin names for it.
Yeah, crows
like,
don't have morality. You're imposing it on them.
Actually, like to like everyone talking about the birds, and I love the line where she's just like, it's simply ridiculous to think that birds would ever do something like this.
Yeah, they would never flock
birds
together.
Bring beauty to the world, and I always love that line because like that's kind of how I feel about birds. I think birds do bring beauty to the world.
Yeah,
I think they're very
awesome.
cool. I love them.
What's incredible, though, is that, like, when you're watching that scene and there's an ornithologist there, you're like, oh, well, this must be related. And then it's not at all. It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I had a sort of mid-20s career switch. I was working in film and television, and I hated it so much that I applied to a bunch of different colleges to re-go to college because I knew I wouldn't be able to make money in film. And one of the things I thought I wanted to do was ornithology.
Nice.
There's a really beautiful college up in Ithaca that I wanted to go to, but
we had an ornithologist on 2 Minutes Late Night that time. We did what birds do these metal singers sound like?
Oh yeah,
and we had
I watched that episode.
Like,
beautiful.
We played him like the sound of the metal singer, and then he would like play a bird sound.
Such a great idea. But I she's so funny because she's like, it's not just that she's really smart about birds and is like interested in telling people like how to maybe survive, or she's just there to tell people they're wrong about this thing that's happening, because this is after Tippi Hedren has to, because she on the
this is at the famous scene where the kids all run out of the school and they're attacked by crows, and like the famous scene where they're all on the jungle gym and she looks over and there's just like hundreds of them there.
That is really affecting too.
That's a great setup where she's watching one in the air. She's just like having a cigarette and she just notices one like sort of floating around, and then like the camera comes in, it lands and there's like dozens to hundreds of these crows.
She's like, oh shit.
What I love about that scene, and then we get another example of it in the diner scene, because it's like probably the most famous scare or scene from the birds is the scene where like all the children run away from like the crows that attack them. So she goes into the schoolhouse, and of course Annie is there, and they're singing a school kid song like honestly it kind of goes. But and then she's like, we got to get out of here, and they're like, she's like, kids, it's like a fire drill, like line up and just be silent, but then we're gonna run out of the thing, because if you're afraid there's a large mass of birds that are going to attack you and the children who are your wards, they're like, quick, everybody run outside.
Yeah, I don't
like so much of this movie, and like the fear of the birds and the panicky idiots in this town. Like I just kept thinking of the Tyler the Creator tweet about like cyberbullying, where he's like,
just close your eyes.
Turn it down. Like in this movie, like just stay inside, close the windows.
Stay inside,
not a
birds.
problem. not a problem.
Board up the windows if you must.
Like you're only at risk once you run outside. And then, like, again in the diner where they're like, everybody, the birds are attacking, quick, everyone, let's get out of here.
Out of the diner, everybody. Yeah.
So
don't bring knives. Don't bring any of the weapons we have in here.
So Lydia is scared, and she sends Tippi Hedren to go to the school, and that scene happens, and then they go to the diner. And then people in the diner, she's like on the phone with her dad who owns the newspaper or whatever, and she's like, oh yeah, they're just attacking us all the time.
Yeah, you're not gonna believe this, Dad. I got a big scoop for you.
And that's when the ornithologist overhears that, and she's like, that's not possible, what you saw didn't happen, basically. And then they have this big argument. There's a crazy old man who's like an end times guy who's like, the end of the world is happening, it's the end is nigh, and they're like, shut up.
You fucking idiot.
I also really
love... the same thing to the ornithologist, basically.
Really
like, we don't care.
I also really love in the diner scene, there's like just one drunk at the bar, and he's like, birds, I think we should just kill all of them. Disgusting animal. I think we should just shoot all the birds. And then, of course, the ornithologist lady is like, well, actually, there are over 5 trillion birds in the world, so good luck with that.
You could never,
there aren't enough bullets in the world.
Yeah, it's impossible to kill all the birds. If what was really happening is happening, you're fucked, is what she says, basically. And so it just starts happening again, and then a guy is filling his car up with gas. He gets hooked in the
Dive
head,
bombed,
immediately collapses, spraying gas everywhere.
Actually,
and
the pump comes out, and like the people run over to help him, but nobody fucking notices or cares about the fact that gas is just spilling everywhere and just like rolling downhill. They're trying to help this guy. Nobody deals with the gas, and then, like all the gas just just sort of flows downward to some fucking other idiot who gets out of his car and is just immediately letting up a stogie, and they're like, no, you idiot! And like, of course, it blows up, and then just within 30 seconds, this town is on fire because of how fucking dumb all these people are. It's great.
In my, I think, like, second favorite shot in the movie, he blows up, and then you immediately cut to some sort of, it almost looks tilt shifted, but I know it couldn't possibly be. It must be a miniature or something, but it looks really good. It's just this like perfect shot of the entire town with this like big long line of fire down the middle of it.
This trail of gasoline on fire, yeah.
and then slowly like gulls come into the shot.
Yeah, I love that shot so much.
Let's go, motherfuckers. It's incredible. And then they attack. And then that's the famous scene where everybody's just mayhem. Shit is on fire. The firefighters come, but they're getting pecked by seagulls, and they're swinging their fire hoses everywhere. And then Tippi Hedren rushes into a phone booth, and so now she's surrounded by glass, and like some guy's all full of blood and banging on the walls of the phone booth. And and then the gulls break the thing. And they're like, we're going to come at you. And they break the glass open. And then finally Mitch comes to the rescue and brings her back in the diner. And that sequence is so cool. Like, it's still
so
really rocks. I have to say.
I just love in any disaster or horror movie or whatever. I just love like panicky idiots like losing their shit and causing a disaster. It's great. It's great.
Because
it's always great, but like to see it at scale is so special. You don't really see that nearly enough.
What you mean, like
just like a big amount of it? You know, like it's always like a couple of people here and there. Like seeing like the whole town just go haywire is just fantastic.
Yeah, it really works. And so they run back into the restaurant, and then they see all the women who smartly stayed inside the fucking cafe huddled in a hallway. And the ornithologist, you see like her profile being like, fuck you guys, don't say anything. And then and then they're like, okay, this is happening, everybody get inside or leave the town or whatever. And then you get the end of Signs. Basically they go to their home and start boarding everything up, and they're like, okay, we're gonna be fine as long as we just don't let them break the windows. And so they board up the entire house, and now they're just like chilling in the house. And then what happens?
Well, the birds begin to Night of the Living Dead style, just like mass around the house and like attack the boards on the window, and literally pecking through the doors and windows of the house. And it's just and then like the power goes out and it's like lit by candlelight, and it's like, and Hitchcock starts using all these like extreme angles and like from above or below to it becomes this very a beautiful sequence of them trapped in this house.
Yeah, incredible stuff in this part. Although I will say this is the one time where in this sequence the fact that they're birds becomes really a problem for me. Like their little beaks.
The beaks sticking through the holes is kind of ridiculous.
Really funny.
It just reminds me of Finding Nemo with all the little seagulls. They're like, mine. But this sequence is really well done. And but it's funny because there's a moment, like a calm before the storm, where they start to realize I love the idea that they stop and then regather and rest, and then the movie's never really clear about what triggers it logistically, but you have this sense that there will be a period of rest, and you can sort of reconfigure what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to be whenever the two of them start to feel okay with each other.
This is the sequence where
maybe we can make out or something.
So they do. They kiss really hard in this scene, but right before the birds attack.
So this is important. So Mitch and Melanie kiss for the first time. And then we get the actual climax of the movie, like, you know, like the culmination is like when she goes upstairs, and what has happened is that they've like basically like been like through a hole in the roof. They have all the birds have gotten into this one room on like the second floor of the house. And I forget what reason she's like goes in there to like check it out or whatever.
She hears the wings flapping.
Yeah, so like she goes in the room and like shuts the door behind her, and then realizes that there's like 300 fucking birds just in this room, and then they all just like fucking just mass attack her at the same time, and she's just like, yeah, like they're trying to get out the door, and she's like just falling down, and like her beautiful like, you know, sort of green suit is getting all torn to shreds, and there's like blood all over her, and then, you know, Mitch has to come in and rescue her. But
well, like, this part. She also, like, right before she, like, falls down, she gives, like, the most sexual, like, oh, Mitch. Like, it doesn't sound like she's scared. It sounds like she's in sexual ecstasy.
Yeah, exactly. And like, her being sort of, like, ravaged by these birds. And then once again, like, her blood, I think, like, you know, becomes kind of a stand-in for, like, the sex act. And the fact that, like, she had just kissed Mitch prior to this. And, like, this gets back so, like, after she is, you know, savagely attacked by like all these birds, like she's saved, but like her head is all bandaged up, and at this point she is completely catatonic, and I think this is very telling that this is when the birds stop attacking. And like, you know, the last scene in the movie is like they all like gather themselves out and like get into the car and drive away from the house, but like the entire house is covered and surrounded by these birds that are just sort of like just sitting there not doing anything, but there's like they're everywhere.
Like, if this bitch opens her fucking I swear to fucking God.
One word, bitch.
She finally stops with the yammering and the yammering.
So then, like, you know, Mitch kind of like carries her downstairs out of the house, like brings the car around, and they're like very silently sort of like tiptoeing into the car, and like, you know, they drive away, and like, you know, Lydia sort of embraces Melanie in the back of the car. She sort of like, you know, she like, you know, cradles her in a way. And I think what's important here is that like the birds stop attacking because the threat that Melanie represents has been removed. She's been rendered, like I said, catatonic, like speechless by this horrible bird attack. And in that moment, Lydia assumes the role of mother to her. So Melanie becomes like the other daughter rather than the love interest for Mitch, and Mitch is protecting her in the same way he protects Kathy, the younger sister. And it's this like moment of like these sort of like these psychosexual family bonds.
Yeah, she's been declawed. She's no longer sexual.
And then remade in a way that Lydia finds acceptable. And I think like it's very telling that like that's when the birds cease their bird onslaught, and the movie ends.
I love what they're clearly real birds, and he's like walking, and one of the birds just like bites him. They're like, fuck you, I'm watching you. But no, I think you're totally right. I mean, like, this is a movie about, and you can kind of read that as either a happy ending or like a really disturbing ending. Like, it could be like, okay, the mom is sort of like, I accept that this reconfiguration of the family as long as I'm included, and I'm sort of, you know, I'm the matriarch of this whole scenario. Or it could be like, as long as, you know, you are the daughter and me and Mitch are the parents, you know, and I'm going to like, as long as you become like this weird, you know, catatonic
you're being dominated care. Like as long as you're no longer this like vibrant sexual character who can like go out, who can do anything at any time, as long as you're predictable, she becomes
childlike,
you know,
at the end of the movie.
You're predictably under the thumb, like you'll always need our help, so I feel better about you being here.
Yeah, exactly. And also I think that was probably my favorite like visual shot in the movie, where it's like somehow a storm, I guess it's a matte painting probably, but like the storm is like, it's completely dark, but like over outside of the town it's sunny. Mm-hmm. So it looks like there's a storm cloud overhead, but it's not very clear if it's night or day or what. That part looks, and then it's like every inch of like the land is birds somehow.
It's a great final image of the movie. It's really
incredible.
It's really like haunting, and like you said, like it just like it communicates this sense of like, and we don't know what's happening in the outside world. Like, we could assume that what's happening in Bodega Bay is happening everywhere, all over the planet.
Well, they do have on the radio, right? You hear on the radio they say something about like that they're attacking somewhere else and that the military is going to have to intervene.
Right, yeah.
Which is a very funny.
Yeah. No, but it's this very like haunting, like I said, like apocalyptic like image and feeling
Absolutely.
that Hitchcock conveys in this movie in a way that like it feels very modern now, because like the apocalypse movies are like its whole genre, and I feel like this was really like the proto like genesis of so many of those kinds of movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, there was disaster movies. Like there was Towering Inferno and sort of like, oh no, ants, big ants or whatever. But like this one really feels like the world is changing because of it. Like there's an
absolutely.
Apocalypse happening.
And like crucially, the social order or normalcy is never restored at the end of this movie.
Right. It's going to be changed forever, and it might never go back.
Right.
It's crazy. It's a really weird movie. The fact that it's birds, I still don't really get why. But it's fun.
Yeah, there definitely is cool. That element of like they're birds. Like
I think it works, and I think it's like it's so funny and weird, and like also kind of scary, because like I think the brilliance of it is that like birds are something that like everyone like is aware of, but like completely take for granted, and like don't find threatening in any way. Like, it'd be one thing if, like, every dog on the planet started attacking people. Like, that's a fear that, like, is a little bit more, like, understandable or relatable, or a fear that, like, that's more common. Whereas, like, nobody is even, like, aware of, for the most part, even when they see them, much let alone, like, afraid of birds. But it's, like, takes this great idea as, like, hey, wait a second. These things are everywhere, and there's, like, a lot of them. There's a lot of them everywhere, and, like, what are they up to?
Dude, what if there was a scene where they started like dropping eggs like bombs? That feels like a missed opportunity.
And they're stinky, and they get you all
just
gross.
like overhead, like a whole flock of them just drop all their eggs.
I think if there's one thing that I wish this movie did, is like kill somebody a little more viscerally. Like, I mean, you see some of like the big ones you see that are because you see the Annie dies, and you see like her aftermath. You see a lot of aftermath bodies, Right. The one guy you see die, I guess you assume he dies after the phone booth breaks, and like he's got like little marks all over him where he's like bleeding or whatever. But I wish they had sort of like, I guess this is a sort of like retrospect criticism of like what you might do now, which is just like show like a sky burial type footage of like people like eating the flesh off it, like bones happening,
like a dozen ravens just picking out my intestines.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think there's a sense that it's like, wait, what are they actually doing? Like they're just picking little pieces of your skin off, and then like piranhas or something. I don't know, but you're right. It's kind of funny too. Like it's just this weird innocuous thing that what if it turned on you?
If there was a modern remake of this, I feel like there would be a scene where we would see them like hitting something with a lot of force and just like dying instantly, and just doing it over and over and over again, so you get a sense of like the impact of them hitting before we get into a lot of the action.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Something like that to like let you know what the power of it really is.
A couple shots of like a raven just like digging right into a skull.
yeah, for sure. Well, I was thinking just like a wall, just seeing them like hit like a door or something like that, and like they like hit it and just fall down dead. Yeah.
Or like I mean, that swan hit Fabio in the face, and he had to get reconstructive surgery.
Fucked him up.
Just one swan.
I mean, what about airplanes? I mean, Sully. What if they just decided to fly into every turbine and every
that would for sure be a modern version of this? Yes.
The Hudson River's not that big. They can't all land there.
It can't be a landing strip for everybody. But no, I think that you're right, Will, that this is a movie that's, really about like cultural anxiety, and like the birds don't really matter. It's just like a fun technical idea that it seemed like he wanted to try. And then he probably like immediately thought of like, ooh, eyes pecked out. That'll be crazy. And some visual stuff, but it could be bugs. It could be dogs. It could be anything. It's just about like someone's world. And it's funny because Lydia isn't really like a main character. Like she doesn't get a ton of screen time, Like they have that one really nice conversation, or one really compelling conversation, where she's like, why do you have to like me? Like, what does it matter if I'm good? Or, and she's like, well, because I want to be here, But like mostly you don't really think of her as like the main character, but she's it's like a movie that is about her emotions and her world falling apart around her, and her like using this like type of violence to get it back together. And I think it's you can read really good.
If you care to read into, or like, weave in like stories of the production of this movie, and particularly Tippi Hedren's relationship with Alfred Hitchcock, which is, he basically like abused her and was like, it was very, very horrible to her in the making of this movie, because he was, obviously like obsessed with her. She was like the Hitchcock blonde, like she was like his type, and in the way both on film and then off screen, like in the production of it, like his sadism towards her is like very much reflected. And yeah, like what the movie is like really about is like the early 60s, and this both attraction to and repulsion and like fear of like unbridled female sexuality being like introduced into the culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is interesting because I guess in a way it's kind of like a reactionary, like intentionally movie, but like it ends up sort of just being a good example of like what people's fears were, I guess. And they lose, so you kind of cheering for the birds, I guess.
Let's give it up for the birds. They truly
you have to hand it to them.
They bring beauty into our world, and if we don't,
bring beauty into our world. And this year, the Eagles are going all the way. Go birds!
Go Eagles!
Squaw!
All right, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks so much, Will, for coming on, talking about the birds. Just to be clear, we all recommend this movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Recommend this movie. It's the best one.
It's the best movie we watched for Hitchcock Month, I think, except maybe Psycho. This movie looks a lot better than Psycho.
Yeah, I like it a lot more than Psycho.
Yeah, I think it was up there. I would say it's neck and neck. I think it probably should have more respect than it does, I think.
I love Psycho too. I like Psycho a lot, but like I give The Birds the inside track on my favorite Hitchcock movie just because of how like insanely funny it is. And just how weird and funny it is as a movie. Yeah.
And I think probably better looking. Like some of those images will definitely stay with me more.
I love the shot of her driving up the California coast so much. It's just really great.
There's such good stuff. Like when she's driving the boat, it looks incredible. Like when the Lydia comes down that hallway for the first time.
Yes.
Like the framings and the choices, and when she's going up and it's all lit by candlelight, incredible stuff. Probably definitely the best color Hitchcock movie I've seen. It's like even better than Vertigo, I think. So yeah, thanks so much, Will, for coming on and talking about The Birds with us.
My pleasure.
Anything you'd like to plug?
Just the usual, Chapo Trap House. Check it out.
All right. And I guess we are playing a show kind of together on June 5th.
Oh, right.
The Frequency
Frequency Fest, yeah.
Yeah, my band will be playing the Frequency Fest. So
awesome. I can't wait.
If you're listening to this and you haven't fucking bought your tickets to Frequency 1, please go do that. It's on all of our Twitters. You should. It's going to be a lot of fun. But other than that, yeah, listen to Chapo and listen to me while I say to go on Twitter and follow us at Gen Lost.
and just watch movies too. I'd like
to
plug for just the movies.
Giving it up for movies. Thank you. So yeah, follow us at Gen Lost Pod. Go to patreon.com/generationloss and subscribe to our Patreon. You can get weekly bonus episodes where we talk about the movie news. You can get access to the Discord where we show the movie that we're going to watch the Sunday before the episode comes out, which is a very fun time. Other than that, thanks.
Deuces.
Bye.
Cheers.